It's 2 in the morning at a truck stop outside Phoenix, Arizona, and the asphalt is still radiating heat from a day that hit 113 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 45 Celsius. Down the long rows of parked trucks, hundreds of engines sit silent. No idling, no air conditioning humming anywhere on the lot. Yet inside those sleeper cabs, drivers are sound asleep, and most of them will tell you they slept just fine. It seems impossible, sleeping inside a metal box that was baking in the desert sun all afternoon. But truckers have been solving this problem for decades, and the strangest part is this. The single most important thing they do has almost nothing to do with cooling. We'll get to that. First, you might be wondering why they don't just leave the engine running. For most of trucking history, that's exactly what drivers did. Pull into the truck stop, set the parking brake, leave the diesel idling all night, and let the cab air conditioning run until sunrise. But that era is mostly over. States like California began enforcing strict anti-idling laws, with fines that can run into the hundreds of dollars for a truck idling more than 5 minutes. Dozens of other states followed with their own versions. And even where the law allows it, the economics don't. A big diesel engine idling overnight burns somewhere around a gallon of fuel every hour. Over a 10-hour federally required rest break, that's 10 gallons of diesel, night after night, week after week. Do the math across a year and you're looking at thousands of dollars burned just to sleep. On top of that, idling is hard on the engine itself. Diesel engines are built to work under load, and long hours of idle time cause carbon buildup and wear that shortens engine life. Many trucking companies now track idle time electronically and penalize drivers who let it climb. So the modern driver pulling into that Phoenix truck stop has a simple reality in front of him. The engine goes off, the desert heat stays on, and he still needs 8 hours of real sleep to legally and safely drive tomorrow. Now, a rookie driver learned something the hard way on his first summer run through the Southwest. A sleeper cab is essentially a greenhouse on wheels. It's a box of steel and glass, and when it sits in direct sun in the Mojave Desert, the inside temperature doesn't match the outside temperature. It exceeds it, sometimes by 20 or 30 degrees. A cab parked nose west on a July afternoon along Interstate 10 can easily pass 140 degrees Fahrenheit inside. Hot enough that the steering wheel will burn your hands and the vinyl seats become untouchable. If a driver climbs into that oven at 9 in the evening and only then starts thinking about cooling off, he's already lost. Veteran drivers understand something that changes everything about how they approach the night. The battle against the heat is won or lost hours before bedtime, which brings us to the first real technique, and it's one that costs absolutely nothing. Parking strategy. Watch the veterans roll into a truck stop in Tucson or Barstow around 4 in the afternoon, and you'll notice they don't just take the first open spot. They're reading the lot. They look for the shade line of a building, a fuel canopy, or a row of trees, and they calculate where that shade will be at 6 in the evening, not where it is right now. They think about the sun's path. An experienced driver will often park with the nose pointed east or northeast, so the big windshield, the largest piece of glass on the truck, catches the gentle morning light instead of the brutal western sun of late afternoon. Some will choose a spot at the end of a row where a crosswind can actually reach the cab instead of being blocked by a wall of trailers on both sides. And when there's a choice between blacktop and gravel, gravel wins. Because asphalt soaks up solar heat all day and radiates it back up at the truck all night like a stovetop that won't shut off. None of this sounds dramatic, but drivers who've run desert routes for 30 years will tell you that a smart parking spot alone can mean a difference of 10 degrees inside the cab. And in this game, every single degree matters. But parking only limits the damage. The next layer of defense is stopping the sun before it ever gets inside. And this is where the reflective barriers come in. You've seen the silver accordion-style reflector that people put in car windshields. Truckers take that idea much further. Many drivers buy rolls of reflective foil insulation from a hardware store, the kind with a layer of bubble insulation sandwiched between two silver faces, and they cut custom panels to fit every single piece of glass in the cab. Windshield, both door windows, the small sleeper windows, all of it, silver side facing out. The The physics is simple and beautiful. Most of the heat entering that cab is radiant energy, sunlight passing through glass and being absorbed by the dark dashboard, the seats, the bedding. The reflective panel bounces that radiation back outside before it can turn into trapped heat. Drivers who panel their windows properly report the cab staying 20 degrees cooler than an unprotected truck parked right beside them. And there's a second trick that pairs with it. Nearly every sleeper cab has a heavy curtain that separates the bunk area from the driving compartment. Closing that curtain shrinks the space. Instead of trying to keep an entire cab comfortable, the driver only has to manage the small bedroom behind the seats. Smaller space, smaller problem. Now, blocking the sun keeps heat out, but by nightfall the cab still holds warmth, and a sealed box with a sleeping human inside gets stuffy fast. So the third layer is airflow, and truckers have turned this into an art form. The moment the sun drops behind the mountains, the desert air outside starts cooling faster than the air inside the cab. The driver's job is to swap that air. Windows come down, but not all the way, and not on just one side. Drivers crack windows on opposite corners of the cab, one up front on the driver's side, one in the sleeper on the passenger side, creating a diagonal path that pulls a cross breeze through the entire space. To keep out the mosquitoes and moths swarming the truck stop lights, they fit mesh bug screens over the window openings, some store-bought, some homemade from screen material and magnets. Many trucks carry rain deflectors over the windows, those smoked plastic visors, which let a driver keep windows cracked even through a surprise desert thunderstorm. And a lot of sleepers have a roof vent, which becomes the secret weapon, because hot air rises. Open the roof vent, crack a low window, and the cab starts breathing on its own. Hot air escaping through the ceiling while cooler night air gets drawn in below. Add a small battery-powered fan aimed across the bunk, and something interesting happens. Moving air across your skin evaporates sweat, and evaporation pulls heat off your body. The thermometer might say 90 degrees, but a steady breeze can make it feel like the high 70s. The old-timers understood this long before anyone explained the science to them, and they built every habit around one simple rule: keep the air moving. And there's a timing element to this that separates the pros from everyone else. The moment a veteran shuts the engine down before dinner, before the shower, before anything else, he opens the whole cab up. Doors wide, vent open, curtain pulled back. That first hour after parking is when the cab is dumping its stored heat, and he wants every bit of it gone before he does anything else. He'll eat his dinner at the picnic table by the fuel island or in the driver's lounge while the truck exhales. By the time he climbs back in, the cab has already dropped most of the way toward the outside air temperature, and the fans only have to finish the job instead of fighting a losing battle against 140 degrees of trapped heat. And that brings us to the oldest trick in the book, one that desert travelers were using a century before the first sleeper cab ever rolled off an assembly line: evaporative cooling. The truck version goes like this. The driver takes a cotton sheet or a large towel, soaks it in water at the truck stop sink, wrings it out until it's damp but not dripping, and drapes it over his body in the bunk. Then he points the fan at himself. As the water evaporates from the fabric, it pulls heat away continuously, turning that damp sheet into a personal swamp cooler that can feel shockingly cold in dry desert air. Some drivers keep a spray bottle of water beside the bunk and mist their arms and chest whenever they stir in the night. Others wrap a wet bandana around the neck, right over the blood vessels close to the skin, which cools the blood flowing to the brain and drops the whole body's sense of temperature. And there's the ice trick. Nearly every truck stop sells bags of ice for a couple of dollars. Drivers fill water bottles, freeze them in the truck stop freezer or buy them cold, and set them in front of the fan, so the breeze crossing the ice arrives chilled. One frozen gallon jug tucked near the pillow acts like a reverse hot water bottle, quietly absorbing heat for hours. Simple, cheap, and it works. There's one caveat the veterans will mention, though. Evaporative tricks shine in the dry heat of Arizona, Nevada, and West Texas, where the air drinks up moisture instantly. Try the wet sheet method on a humid August night in Louisiana or along the Gulf Coast, and the water barely evaporates. The sheet just sits there, clammy and warm, In humid country, drivers lean harder on airflow and ice instead. Knowing which tool fits which climate is part of the craft, and there's a reason the dry air version of this method survived from the days of desert nomads all the way to the age of chrome Peterbilts. But there's a part of desert trucking that catches almost every new driver off guard, and it's the opposite of everything we've talked about so far. The desert flips on you. That same stretch of Arizona or Nevada that hit 113 degrees at 3 in the afternoon can drop to 50, sometimes lower, in the hours before dawn. Dry air holds no heat once the sun is gone. So the driver who set up his cab for maximum cooling, windows cracked, vent open, damp sheet, fan running, often wakes up at 4 in the morning genuinely cold, and in the high desert country of Utah or eastern Oregon, cold enough to matter. This is why experienced drivers treat the sleeper cab as a survival capsule for both extremes, and why there's always a small kit behind the seat that has nothing to do with summer. Extra water, a flashlight, and almost always some form of compact thermal protection. A lot of drivers these days keep a thermal bivy called TerraShell in the glove box or the side pocket of the bunk. It's a small emergency sleeping bag, folds down to about the size of a soda can, and it uses a reflective lining that works on the exact same physics as those silver window panels, just pointed the other direction. Instead of bouncing the sun's heat away from the cab, it bounces your own body heat back at you, around 90% of it. With no batteries and nothing to set up, you just climb in. For the 4 in the morning desert chill, it's more than enough, and for the drivers running winter routes through Wyoming or the Dakotas, where a breakdown can turn a cab into a steel freezer in a couple of hours. It's the kind of thing you hope you never need, but you're awfully glad is within arm's reach. If you spend real time on the road, or someone in your family does, it's worth having one tucked in the glove box. There's a link in the description below if you want to take a look. It's the same logic as everything else in this video. Prepare before you need it, because at 2 in the morning on a dark interstate, it's too late to start shopping. Now, back to the heat, because there's an entire category of technique we haven't touched yet, and the old hands consider it more important than any gadget. Preparing the body itself. A human being is a water-cooled machine. Your ability to sleep through a hot night depends almost entirely on your ability to sweat efficiently, and sweating requires hydration that started hours earlier. Veteran drivers drink water steadily all day long, starting with the first cup of coffee at dawn, because a driver who arrives at the evening truck stop already dehydrated has a body that simply cannot regulate its own temperature overnight. He'll toss and turn no matter how many fans are running. The pre-sleep routine matters too. Most large truck stops, the pilots and the TAs and the loves have shower facilities, and the smart move is a shower before bed, finishing with the water turned cooler for the last minute or two. That drops the core body temperature right before sleep, and a falling core temperature is actually the biological signal that tells the brain it's time to shut down. Drivers also learn to eat light on hot nights. A heavy chicken fried steak dinner forces the body to generate heat for hours digesting it, and alcohol, besides being off limits before driving anyway, dehydrates and wrecks the body's temperature control. And then there's the boldest move of all, the schedule flip. Some seasoned drivers running the desert corridors in summer simply refuse to fight the afternoon. They rearrange their entire clock, driving through the hottest hours of the day with the truck's air conditioning running as it should and taking their 10-hour break through the late night and cool morning. They sleep from midnight to 10 in the morning when the cab needs no cooling at all. The heat never gets beaten. It gets outsmarted. There's one more piece inside the cab that rookies never think about until it betrays them: the bed itself. Modern mattress toppers made of memory foam are wonderful in a climate-controlled bedroom and miserable in a hot truck, because that foam works by softening with body heat, which means it wraps around you and holds your warmth against your skin all night. Drivers who run hot routes swap it out. They go with a firm mattress and plain cotton or bamboo sheets, fabrics that breathe and wick moisture instead of trapping it. Some lay a woven bamboo or rattan mat over the mattress, an old trick from Southeast Asia, which creates tiny air channels between the body and the bed. Others use ventilated mattress toppers designed with open mesh, so the fan's breeze can actually pass underneath the sleeper's back. A pillow filled with buckwheat hulls stays cool where a foam pillow turns into a heat sponge. Small changes, but a driver spends around 200 nights a year in that bunk. The bed might be the single most used piece of equipment on the entire truck. Of course, there's also a money ladder in this world, and it's worth being honest about it. At the bottom rung, costing $20 or $30, is the humble 12-volt fan, and it remains the true workhorse of the American sleeper cab. Most drivers run two, one pulling air in through a cracked window, one blowing directly across the bunk, wired to the truck's batteries and sipping so little power they can run all night without draining anything. A step up from that, some drivers install dedicated battery banks that store power generated while driving, enough to run a small electric cooler and extra fans through the night. Higher still are auxiliary power units, small independent generators mounted on the truck frame that can run climate control without idling the main engine. And the newest option, battery-powered air conditioning systems built specifically for sleeper cabs, which can put out cold air for 8 or 10 hours on stored charge. These systems cost anywhere from $1,000 to over $10,000, and plenty of owner-operators swear by them. But here's what's telling. Talk to drivers who have the expensive equipment, and most of them still park nose east, still panel their windows with reflective insulation, still shower before bed, and still keep the fan and the water bottle within reach. Because machinery fails, batteries drain, and the desert doesn't care what you paid. So let's close the loop from the beginning of this video. I said the most important thing a trucker does to sleep through a 113-degree night has almost nothing to do with cooling. And now you can see what it is. It's everything that happens 12 hours before bedtime. It's the water he drinks at 10 in the morning. It's reading the truck stop lot at 4 in the afternoon and choosing the spot where the shade will be, not where it is. It's the silver panels that go up before the sun does its damage, the curtain that shrinks the room, the light dinner, the cool shower, the frozen jug from the ice machine. By the time that driver actually lies down in the bunk, the hard work is finished. The rookie fights the heat at midnight and loses. The veteran defeated it before lunch. And that's really the deeper lesson hiding inside this whole subject, one that applies far beyond trucking. The people who handle extreme conditions best are almost never the ones with the most equipment. They're the ones who thought ahead, layered simple defenses, respected the environment they were entering, and prepared for both sides of the extreme, the heat of the afternoon and the cold that follows it before dawn. A silver panel, a damp sheet, a bag of ice, a spot of shade, a full water jug, and a small kit behind the seat. Maybe $40 worth of preparation, doing the job that thousands of dollars of idling diesel used to do, night after night, all across the American Southwest. If you enjoyed this look inside a working world most people never see, hit subscribe, because this channel digs into how skilled people actually do difficult things, from long-haul drivers to linemen to merchant sailors. And if you're curious what happens on the other end of the thermometer, how truckers survive nights at -40 on the ice roads of northern Canada, that video is exactly where you want to go next.